Welcome to the AFH University HBCU panel series. My name is Kayla Partee, and I'm a former student athlete at Clark Atlanta University. At Clark Atlanta University, I ran cross country and track and field. Now I'm about to kick it over to Alex.
Hey everyone, I'm Alex Broome. I'm a rising senior at the illustrious Howard University studying in accounting, and I am also on the women's lacrosse team at Howard. And I'll kick it off to Ashante.
Hi guys, I'm Ashante Gatlin. I just wrapped up my junior year at Southern University where I play soccer, and I'm studying mechanical engineering and sociology. I'm gonna kick it off to Kimora.
Hello, my name is Kimora Williams. Sorry, y'all. I was about to give my Howard intro.
Do it. That's normal.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Okay. Hello, my name is Kimora Williams. I'm an honors rising junior, sports management major, legal communications minor, and I attend Howard University as a women's lacrosse player.
Hey guys, my name is Jaala James. I'm a senior marketing major from Scottsdale, Arizona, currently playing lacrosse at Howard University. So today we're going to be starting off our first question with why each of us decided to attend a university in the first place. So I don't know who wants to answer that question first, but we can go ahead and take it away.
I can go first since I just graduated, and I feel like when it came to college selection, I go off of how I felt, and I took like probably 5 to 6 different tours, and a lot of them it kind of felt like a foreign place. But when I finally did go to one HBCU, it felt like somewhere I could call my second home, and I knew I was going to be staying on campus. So I was just making sure that I felt comfortable in an environment that felt welcoming for me.
I can go next. So Howard is one of the two HBCUs that have women's lacrosse. So I knew that I wanted to go to an HBCU. So it was either between Del State or Howard University. And Howard really just felt like home. It's a great environment. It has a lot of networking and connecting that I can do. And it has led me to so many opportunities. And that's why I chose Howard.
I can go next. So I'm from San Diego, California, and there's the closest HBCU. There's a private HBCU out there, but the closest one would be in Texas. So I have some family like close out here, and once I got introduced to HBCU, I kind of fell in love with the whole like concept, the culture of it, and also it was Southern has one of the best engineering programs in HBCUs, and I was able to do what I love and play soccer. So I kind of got the best of both worlds to where I felt comfortable and I was able to thrive somewhere where I could do everything I wanted.
My story is a little chaotic. Well, not chaotic, but a little funny. I fell in love with Howard as a junior in high school. A family friend actually attended Howard, and we helped her move in, and we drove through the yard to get to Quad, and they had like all these balloon blow ups and everybody was on the yard, and I was like, this is what college is like. I had been on tours before, but like it was to like Georgetown or GW and like the local schools, and I'm like, this is what it's like, and like it's all of us. And it was like really cool just to be at a HBCU and see other Black students. Like I went to a predominantly Black high school, which I'm very fortunate to attend, but having college also be that option was really important to me. And every single time I went to different schools, I was just like, I'm not just getting the same vibe and aura that Howard did. Like people weren't outside, like nobody was really doing anything. And then later on, as I did my research, Howard was one of 3 HBCUs with an accounting department and was one of 2 that was accredited for accounting alone. And I was like, okay, when I graduate, I need to go to a place that has a really big worth for my degree. And Howard was just at the top of my list. In the back of my head, I didn't want it to be, but it I've come to love it.
My story, I guess, is very similar to Ashanti's. I don't know if she had the same experience in the aspect that I didn't really grow up around any Black culture or anything like that. I had briefly been in Jack and Jill in high school and did a cotillion, but that was really it. And I didn't, all of my Black family is in Mississippi and Louisiana, and I rarely see them. My dad is Nigerian, so I don't see it in my need. They're all, in Nigeria, so I don't see any of that family. So I've really only grown up around white culture, and that was all I had known and experienced. So an HBCU had never even been a word that was uttered to me. And I had actually planned on going to the Naval Academy And I had gotten my congressional nominations and was accepted and everything, and then was planning to go, and my mom found an article about Howard for whatever reason, and was just la di da, like might as well look into this. Found out what an HBCU was, and she's white, so she had no idea what it was either, and she kind of brought it to me and was like, "Hey, I don't really know what this is, but it seems like it'd be cool. And they have women's lacrosse, and it's another great way to go and get your education and have it be financially, doable under scholarship." And so I had kind of looked into it, and I talked to the athletic director, and I still didn't really understand the concept of an HBCU or why it was needed or why it was necessary. And I'm so happy I did, because I've learned so much, and it was the home that I didn't know I needed at the time, and now I would 1000% do it over again. So I don't know if we want to move on to the next question. So the next question is why mental health awareness is important in college campuses across the country, and specifically on sports teams. So I guess we can kind of go in the same order of how we've introduced ourselves. We can just kind of go in that order.
Okay, so that would mean me first. Me personally, I feel like in college, it's a very important transitional period for us. Like we're wrapping up being a teenager and we're getting the taste of being a young adult. And a lot of the crucial things in life, like mental health, physical health, emotional health, trying to balance all of those things isn't really talked about as much. They kind of focus on performance. And with us being athletes, we know we have to show up and perform inside and outside of the classroom. And I feel like, not saying a class per se, but maybe some type of workshop or something, they should focus more on mental health so we know how to work with sitting in our own energy, know when we're okay, when we're not okay, when we need breaks, when we just need to reach out and ask for help. So I feel like just learning about the ins and outs of mental health is something important that's in our community, especially as Black women, that we need to just speak on more.
For me, I found that transitioning, especially from COVID, from adulting, as my family calls it, is adulting in training and having your training wheels on, and you start off, you move in as a freshman or a sophomore, depending on how COVID hit you. You got the training wheels on, you're trying to figure out life, and then you're moving into an upperclassman space. So you're worrying about internships, your classes, how you're going to graduate. Then you're worrying about grad school, where you're going to live, what you're going to eat, because you no longer have those comforts. And for me, mental health is really just making sure that people are aware of what their stresses are and what their triggers are, because you're in a transitional period of your life where either you're reacting to everything or everything's new and you're just trying to figure that out. And for me, like, I'm also on Morgan's Message, which I hold very near and dear to my heart, as I've seen my friends suffer with their mental illnesses. And it sucks to see the people that are around you to hurt, and there's nothing really that you can do about it except for just guide them, which is why I'm like so attached to Morgan's Message, because I'm like, girl, you need to go find a therapist. Like, you need to talk to somebody. If there's something you need to do, let's do it. Like, let's go get some food. Let's go take care of yourself first. And I feel like, especially as athletes, we are always held to that upper level. Like, you might be being a normal student is a task within itself, but then when you add on a student athlete, so you're trying to perform for your scholarship, because when you're not performing, that scholarship's gone. How are you going to pay for college? And then it's, you also wear Howard, Southern, Clark Atlanta across your chest all the time, and you have to be a representative of school. And sometimes you're just like, I want to let go, and I want to be free, and I don't want to have that title. I just want to be myself. And I feel like that can really like put people in a box to where they feel like they're not divulging in themselves, which is why it's so important for people to just check in and be like, this is something, a part of my life that's not really working. And let me figure this out to make myself a better person, not only for the people around me, but for more importantly, myself.
I just wanted to piggyback off of what Kayla and Alex said. Like, it's in regards to like the student athlete aspect of it. There's a lot of suppression that happens among student athletes. So it's like you have that focus of, okay, I need to perform. I need to do well in my classes. I need to balance my social life. I need to, keep up with workouts. I need to do extra work. And it's a lot of, you kind of push stuff down, or you push things to the side and think, okay, well, I don't have time to worry about this right now. but then it builds up and it builds up. And especially in college, like I'm sure you guys can attest to it, a lot of things happen in our lives during this time. You have family members passing away, you have friends that you're away from home, you're changing in yourself, you're bettering yourself, and sometimes that comes with a lot of changes. So it's a lot of stuff you need to get used to. And I feel like the mental aspect of it takes a toll sometimes. So it's important, like Alex said, it's important to check in. It's important to take the time to be like, okay, like Kayla said, I'm sitting in my energy. I need to see how I'm gonna handle this. I need to know what my triggers are, like Alex said. Because like me personally, a couple of the past semesters, there's been a lot of things happening in my personal life, and I had hit a point where it was really hard to handle that while I was trying to play. And then you don't even want to start talking about injuries, like we get hurt and then it's okay, I don't have my outlet anymore. So it's kind of like we need, and not even just student athletes, but people in general, just students in general need to have those tools to where it's like, okay, I don't have this escape, but I have these tools to where I can control my breathing. If I feel like I'm panicking, I can reach out to these people. I have this support, and actually believe in that. Because, sometimes we hear, oh, well, we're here for you, like as coaches, as like administration, we're here for you. Reach out to us if you need us. But then you don't really feel that support when you go through with it, if that makes sense. Like, so sometimes it's just important for you to be able to get yourself out of those things and to be able to have that power in yourself to really get through it.
I definitely feel like mental health and awareness is very important, and something that needs to be addressed more, specifically at colleges for student athletes. I feel like in the first semester, when we first come back, everyone starts off happy, everything's okay, we're coming back off the summertime. And then as a few weeks get in, we get involved with athletics, academic wise, everyone starts to hit that decrease in their energy level. I know for Howard, we have 6 a.m. practices, so then we start to lose our sleep again. And it all kind of just comes into one big bubble of issues that we all get into personally, academically, athletically. So I feel like if colleges are able to provide more resources, not at the end of the season or not during times of that we don't, that we're kind of leaving or different things of that nature, if they provide that in the moments of needed, such as midterms or finals, that it will really help us and make a difference. I know that personally, like our team struggled a little during like midterms and finals just because of all the stress that we've built up and academically. So I feel like we're able to have more resources around specific times of needs that'll definitely help us. Um, as well as just a quote that I've been really stuck on is comparison is a thief of joy. And I feel like sometimes we try and compare ourselves to somebody else and their progress and their progression, and that actually affects us in our mental health. We try and compare the next athlete and how good she's doing on her run or how good she's doing, in her time of need. But everyone has their moment to shine and everyone deals with certain things which may not elevate them in the moment. So I feel like as though if we as athletes start to take more affirmations and just realize that everyone has a different path to succeed, that will definitely be great in the long run and really take in for our mental health.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that when you start to talk about mental health and you start to discuss it more, you start to learn more about it. And I think that it provides an opportunity of understanding and help from those around you. I know that a lot of times we can feel very alone, and a lot of times we are alone because you can't really go to a lot of people for a lot of things, let alone if that is severe mental health. If you're having, those any self-harm, thoughts or anything like that, it can be, you kind of get into a spot where it's like, I can't say anything because I don't want to essentially get in trouble. It's not really the outlet that you want in that aspect, especially as a student athlete, because I do feel like there is sort of a, I can't think of the word right now, but it's kind of like a bad notion against that those really severe mental health issues that a lot of people do end up going through, and then they end up going through it alone, and that's when we have really horrible results. And so I think that kind of along the lines of what Kiki and Ashante were saying was that you learn ways to take care of yourself, and you learn ways to cope with those things internally, which it can be helpful at times. And I know, like personally, when I started to learn about mental health and I started to learn what was making me tick, what about my childhood makes me tick today? What about my classes? What about my coach? What about her coaching style? What about my teammates? What about my roommates? What about each of those things upsets me, makes me happy, makes me anxious, makes me enjoy what's going on? And so when I learn those things about myself, I can learn how to almost manipulate them so that I can process those feelings and find a better result rather than caving in and just letting everything collapse on me at once. And it also creates a space for your teammates to come in and assist you, because if you can identify yourself, hey, I'm depressed, I'm going through seasonal depression, I'm having really horrible anxiety, I am having performance anxiety, it's those kind of things, you can turn around to your friend, you can turn around to your coach, you can turn to yourself, and you can create a solid plan to address that issue and grow from it personally. And I know, like my roommate, when I can see those signs of depression kicking in, then I can say, you know what? Okay, this is how I can help as a friend. I know she needs help cleaning her room. She's not going to do it. You know, when you're in a depressive episode, you understand those signs and you start to learn about them. Cleaning your room is one of the things that you're not going to do. You may not get up and go exercise. You may not get up and brush your hair, brush your teeth. You may not do your homework. That's something that I do. I don't do any work when I'm depressed. I don't take care of any of those kind of responsibilities. And so when you have people around you that you can help identify those signs with, you can create a plan, and we can say, I can have somebody hold me accountable and help me make sure I get my homework done, or I can help her make sure she gets up and she exercises, or she cleans her room, or she eats something.
And just to add onto that, I feel like how you said, like talking about it and have it, like the more it comes up and the more it's a discussion, the more people learn about it. Not even just because they're, some people, you know, because we do live in a generation where we put more of an emphasis on mental health, but in past generations, it wasn't as much of a big thing, or they kind of pushed it off a little bit. So it's like now that we're doing it, we're kind of forcing people to learn about it. We're talking about it a lot. You hear it a lot, so you can't really ignore it. And I think sometimes a lot of people, like how you said, we feel alone sometimes. I feel like, and I can speak from experience, it's a fear, like to come forward with it. Because say as athletes, like we've all heard, okay, there's something going on, come tell me as a coach. But it's like, okay, if I tell her or him, and I need a day off, somebody's going to take my spot, you know? And so sometimes it's like, okay, it's a business, you know, like that's the realization of it. It can happen, but you don't want to hit a point. I feel like it's important for not even just athletes, but everybody to know that if you hit a burnout point, it's very much possible that your light can just go and you can't reignite it. So it's important, even though, okay, I miss a workout, even though you might be giving somebody else a chance to step up, it's important to put yourself first, just because you have to take care of yourself. You have this set amount of time to play, to do whatever, but you have a lifetime ahead of you that you need to also be taking care of yourself for. And a lot of people just, it's a fear. Like that's the realization of it. It's a fear to like come forward and be, okay, coach, I'm having problems with this, whatever. Because also not a whole lot of people know how to approach that, don't know how to handle that. So yeah, coming forward and really like discussing it more is going to force people, or not force people, I don't want to say force, but people are going to have to learn about it because it's becoming such a big thing into this generation. So it's like the more you talk about it, the more people learn about it, and the more we'll be more comfortable with each other.
Yes, and I agree, especially along the lines of that fear of coming forward, especially because I feel like we already fight tooth and nail as Black athletes to get recognition beyond us being performers, right? And then on top of that, being Black female athletes having to prove again that we are not just performers and prove that we are worthy. We are worthy of our team getting funding. We're worthy of our team getting trainers. We're worthy of our team getting attention and people coming to our games. We have to fight tooth and nail for it against every other entity. These athletic directors and these administrations, they could not care less about most women's teams unless they're raking in a lot of money. And it kind of pushes along that same point of we need our scholarships. A lot of us rely on these scholarships to get an education because we don't have any other financial means to get an education. And that puts us in a position of our team doesn't get funding because we don't bring in revenue like the football teams or the big basketball, the men's teams who bring in all these big crowds because there's already a notion that's in favor of them. And so our team doesn't get funding in the first place. So our worth is already contingent upon that money. And then you break it down individually, and each player knows my financial worth is only tied to how well I perform. And so, like you said, Ashante, if I miss lift for a week because I want to go home an hour early and spend some time on myself and eat a meal before I have to go back to class, now I'm not playing. Now I'm not getting playing time. Now we come next season and it's okay, we got freshmen coming in. These freshmen have, a lot of excitement and these freshmen want to put in the work, and you missed a week of lift. It definitely puts you in a spot where it's like finances especially very much make you kind of aware of it, like hypersensitive to it, I guess.
And that's kind of a sad truth. Like everything you said about like athletic directors and like our funding, because say like take my team, there's probably about 3 or 4 local people from Louisiana, and we have a roster. Or last season we had a roster of 34. So you have people from California, you have people from Washington, you have people from Texas, you have people from I've had a teammate from Iceland. I've had teammates from Puerto Rico. Where else? Jamaica. It's everywhere. So you have international players, and like you said, it's like our worth is compared to our worth is tied to a percentage of how much financial aid we get.
Yeah.
So it's like you're like, okay, like I can't mess up, or else there goes my money. Then it's like, how am I gonna pay for school? How am I gonna get my degree? So it's all these things, like how you said, you're just thinking about, and it's like, okay, I can't take a break, I can't catch a break, and that's what makes it so hard. Like especially as females, because we're already tied to emotional creatures, but it's the same. I feel like everybody goes through the same thing. To be honest with you, it's just we quote unquote make it a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I 100% can agree with everything that's being said. As somebody who did take that 2-week break, I'm really glad I did. Like, granted, the rest of my season did not go how I intended. I was on the upward climb, and then I ended up coming home, being sick, ended up in the ER. And then the week before, my friend had taken her life. So I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I sat there and cried, and my dad was like, you have to get through life right now, and that's your first and foremost thing. And it's for you to not, he was like, you're showing up for a bunch of other people, but you're not showing up for yourself. And that's when I was just like, that's kind of sad to hear about yourself. And when I finally let go of that, I was just like, I can finally function. Like, I wasn't going to practice thinking, if I mess up one more time, that's my whole day. And granted, I was I was at the ER because I couldn't breathe at all because I had a lung condition at the time that I didn't know what was going on. But like, I was like, I can't function in the pressures of being a student, being an athlete. My department's really small, so like just trying to be one of the kids that stays and doesn't drop out of the accounting department and then goes to finance, like that was stressing me out. And I was like, I can't show up for the spaces that I need to be in. Like, again, I hold Morgan's message close and dear to my heart. I couldn't show up to any of the meetings because I was like, I'm gonna break out in tears because this is just too much for me. And then like I wasn't doing anything because I'm very much like if I'm not going to do it for myself, I'll do it for other people type of person. And I was like, I'm not doing anything for the student athlete advisory committee that I was on. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not helping out with the accounting department club that's supposed to be getting started. And I was like, I'm starting to lose these puzzle pieces of what makes me me. And like that light that you had mentioned is very much getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. And there was like one point where I was like, I feel like it's blown out. And I just was like, I think this is time for me to start setting my boundaries and realizing what works for me and what doesn't. And in those 2 weeks, I was like, okay, let me get my grades back together. When I got my grades back together, I was fine, came back to practice, and things started working out because I never, like, I stopped feeling like everything was one and done. And I realized, like, that is such a pressure within itself because as student athletes, it's very much one and done. You mess up, get on a bench. You mess up, hop out and do some quick wall ball real quick, or and when you leave that space and you find the other things that make you happier in life, it was so awesome. Like all my friends were like, Alex, you're always out in the yard. Like when do you have free time? And I was like, because I had to block out my day like to to give myself attention. And I feel like as athletes, we're not giving ourselves a lot of attention for ourselves. Like we're always doing it for something else. Like I realized I was like, I love lacrosse, but the whistle blows for me at the end of senior night. Like I'm very much done and over with it. But however, I'm giving it my all. That way, the little black girl from Charles County that's like myself, where she's the only one on her lacrosse team, sees that there's something bigger and better for her down the road. And I was and that's kind of like the power that fueled me. And I feel like we as athletes at this level, it is strictly business and it sucks the joy out of it too. Um, I'm not sure if anybody's ready to move on, but like, how has being on your campus helped your mental health or intertwined with being a student athlete? Because I know for me, I love being on the yard when it's sunny out. Like that's what really boosts my endorphins. And I know other people are involved in clubs and stuff like that, or even just like touring the city. I know is like a bunch of my friends do when they're not feeling it.
Well, before Alex, I want to say I applaud you for, taking those 2 weeks and doing what you had to do because you were not in the state to continue to play lacrosse at the moment. So you had to do what's best for you. And let me tell you, when you came back, you were bright of sunshine. Like I can contest to that. You really did change over those 2 weeks. And sometimes we all need that. And that goes forward to what I'm saying. We have to acknowledge these issues that we may have within ourselves. I feel like oftentimes we hold back to how we feel due to sitting on the bench, due to not having playing time. So I feel like now that, Alex kind of set the tone of, I have to take these 2 weeks off for my mental health, and she came back better than ever. That just shows that sometimes people really do need that week off to really move forward and progress in their life. I know for me, towards the end of the season, I was really stressed. One of my professors, he would not give me an extension, and for lacrosse, we travel a lot on the road. And to put it that way, the bus never has Wi-Fi. It always says they'll have Wi-Fi, and the bus never has Wi-Fi. And sometimes even the hotels, we have to pay for the Wi-Fi. So it's like we're always using our hotspot, using up connection that barely works. And I really needed this extension. So I had to go back and forth with this professor to get this extension. And it really took a toll on me because I'm an all A student and I really cannot afford this B. So, sometimes we all need that extra push and motivation and really acknowledge the issues that we have and seek help.
So how is mental health intertwined with life as a student athlete on an HBCU campus? Um, I don't know if somebody wants to start with that one.
I'll go ahead. Like I said, I love being on the yard, and I think for me, my mental health was entwined with me starting to be the student first, athlete second type of situation because I was like, I'm making weight. Like I got so frustrated at one point because I was like, I was so proud to put 25s to go on bench, and I'm like, why am I not making this weight? Like I'm only getting one. I'm trying to get two. Like I'm trying to rep this. I'm not trying to max at this, and like I'd be upset all day, like all day. And I always tell this to my accounting major friends, and I tell this to every incoming freshman, like with the stone cold face. You could love your teammates and love your friend, like love your teammates. And I get it. We're like this in the summertime, bunking with each other, falling asleep on the bus, doing homework, having crazy times on the bus, rap battling. But invest in other parts of Howard that aren't athlete you. Because had I not invested in the 5 other senior accounting majors, I wouldn't have the grades that I have because I was so blessed for them to be like, let's do a study group, y'all. and all of our grades shot up because we were starting to work around those things. And then we became like a super group of friends, and everybody's like, you're really tight with your department. I'm like, there's only 15 of us, and it's really great, but like we're all different, multifaceted people. Like I've gone to the Jamaican parties because one of my friends from that accounting department is Jamaican, and I've done movie nights and bowling and all those other things. And they show me how to be a normal student and then make it work with being an athlete. And it was so great. Like Kiki can say that, like Kiki and Jayla know this, but like I was like, I'm outside, I'm having a great time, I'm not stressed out. And it was because I started to invest into Howard for being something other than being an athlete. And when I started to invest in those things, I felt like a better person. And that depression and that sadness and that frustration that I had was it was at a 10. And then it slowly crept down to an 8, into a 6, into a 2, and so on and so forth, to where I was finally functioning as a person. And not only just functioning, but I was functioning and being happy.
I can definitely attest to that. It kind of goes along with what you're saying before about the puzzle pieces, Alex. Like, I've noticed that my 2 years at Howard, I came in with my associate's degree to Howard. So I graduated high school into enrollment. So I had a lot of credits. And my initial like motive was just get out, graduate. Like, you can do this in like a year and a half if you really want to. Like, just do a bunch of summer work. And I was really grinding, and I was really wanting to get done this past year. And then we had this lacrosse season, and I was like, why am I rushing it? Why am I not enjoying like being a student at all? I have not enjoyed any part of being a student. And I even this past spring semester, like, I don't go to parties. I don't think that's necessary. You know, I personally, it's not my thing. But I also haven't been on campus. I haven't joined clubs. I've done my volunteer work with like grassroots and Morgan's Message, but that's really it. And I don't go to the yard. I don't go to student events. I don't go to games for other teams. And I was like, I had this realization this semester, and I was like, girl, you are not a Howard student. You are just a student athlete that just happens to be at Howard, and that's it. And so I really talked to my partner and my family, and I was just like, I almost felt guilty for wanting to take like a fun year. But like this last year of classes, I have like 2 more classes that I need, and the rest are just like mess around classes. So I can just like enjoy lacrosse more, in the fact that I'm not so worried about school, and I can enjoy my sport more and be less worried about my grades. And also in the fact that I should spend time on campus. I should go to these student events. I was like a robot all year. I woke up, went to practice, went to lift, went to rehab, went to class, went home, went back to class, came home, and slept because I was so tired from being up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get to 6 a.m. practice, because I live off campus too. And it's like by 4 p.m., I am dead. I'm already up for 12 hours. And I was just, I'm going home and I'm sleeping. And that's it. And then I had the weekends, and I'm like, screw y'all. I'm not going out to a party. I'm staying in my bed, and I'm getting the sleep that I didn't get all week. I don't know what y'all are on, but I'm going to bed. So this next year for me, I'm really trying to hold myself accountable and enjoy being a student. And Alex, that's something that really spoke to me just now when you said like making friends outside. I have no friends outside of lacrosse. I have acquaintances, and that's about it. Like,
Right.
I need to invest in the other aspects of Howard and being a student, and that's what this year is for me, and I'm actually really excited for it.
Yeah, Alex, I can attest to this too. My sweet mates, they are not lacrosse. They never will be. I don't want lacrosse sweet mates. I'm sorry, but I see y'all too much throughout the day to have y'all as sweet mates. So I actually have people on the swim team who are my sweet mates. And let me tell you, we've never had one issue. We have different schedules. We have times where we talk at night to each other, and have a game night or something. But I feel like we don't have issues because, we're not around each other 24/7. We all have our own room. We all have space to ourselves. And then, we come together sometimes in the night to have fun. But like, we're never with each other 24/7. And I think that's something I had to realize. Having a roommate or a suite mate or somebody you're with 24/7 is honestly not healthy. So going out and meeting different people and meeting new friends is very important to me. As long as like service, giving back, we do so much for lacrosse and school, but we never, put in the time for volunteers. So that's something that I really put first Last year and this year, I started working with inner city girls, especially with inner city girls. I want them to get involved with more sports. Even back home, I have like a few girls, who aren't as fortunate. I gave them all my field hockey sticks, all my old lacrosse sticks, so they can go out on the turf and play and do something with their time. Sometimes little girls and little boys, they don't have the resources to buy $100 lacrosse sticks and field hockey sticks. So that's where we come in and we're able to give back. I don't wear my cleats. I don't wear cleats. I wear turf. So I gave all my cleats, back to those little girls and guys because it's not necessary. So I just feel like sometimes, with the sports that we have, we can give back as well.
Yeah, I agree with the point that everyone was making. I feel like my first 2 years undergrad, I was a straight robot. I only focused on school. I worked at the time during COVID, since we were online, and then my sports. And it's just like I'm looking up, and it's like seems like COVID made life go by so fast. And I'm like, I'm about to be a junior, and I can't even say things that I've done for real outside of track and field, outside of cross country. And honestly, this was my senior year was the first year I made friends outside of my teammates because I feel like that was all I needed. I was around them so much, but I feel like in a way, our coaches will always say, "Oh, you're a student first and an athlete," but the schedule and work routine they give us is like athlete student. So it was hard for me to find that balance amongst other things that I wanted to do. And so I really love the fact that y'all had the courage to really go out and say, "Look, no, I'm going to enjoy my life outside of this sport," because I feel like we being an athlete, we attach our worth to our performance, to our team. So you'll see that times we lack boundaries due to trying to be a team player. But it's like Alex, like you said, I'm glad that you were able to put yourself first. And I had to do the same thing my senior year due to medical reasons I wasn't clear. And it's like being able to just sit back and breathe and really enjoy the reason why you came to this college in the first place. I feel like that's really important when it comes to our mental health because we get so caught up in our to-do list, things that we have to do, we forget about really enjoying why we're here in the first place. And I don't want y'all to look up and it's like, I spent all of my undergrad just performing, worrying about others. So y'all just having the courage to really stand up for what your heart is telling you to do is really great. And I feel like that just, it further aids to helping your mental health. And then when people see that and hear your testimony, they're going to have the courage to do the same thing. And I feel like we said earlier, we're in this generation where we're starting to make mental health a priority and not something that's optional. And I feel like eventually it's going to be hopefully something like Kimora you spoke on, something that's in the middle of our seasons and not just at the beginning or at the end where it's like we really don't even need anymore. We're over, we're relaxed. So I definitely agree with the points that everybody made.
Um, ooh, I was echo. I just want to add, and I'm glad I'm not the only one that had to like take some time off because I'm not even gonna lie, like this year. So this is a little part of like my personal life from last semester. Last semester, I had a few family members pass away, and like during season, it was in a really short amount of time, and then I was injured. I ended up with a stress fracture in my ankle, and I play soccer. So you can understand like that's a little hard. Like even walking was hurting. Like me playing, I was walking around campus with a boot and then taking it off to practice, putting it back on, you know. And then when SWAC tournament came around, I found out literally the day before we started playing that it was a stress reaction, and just going through all that stuff. When I and on the way to a game, I found out my grandmother had passed. Right, so that time it kind of took. It's unfortunate that it took an injury for me to do all those things to kind of put myself first and to really, like get into making more friends outside of soccer and kind of like taking more time to myself because I'm not gonna lie, like going to practice in a boot and crutches wasn't really mentally, I wasn't ready to do that because with everything going on, and then I have to sit here. I have to sit here and watch my team do the stuff that I love, and I can't even help at all. I can't shag a ball, so I'm really just sitting there watching. Now,
That's the worst punishment, I have to say. Go to practice when you're sick or injured and just watching.
And then it's like you're sitting there, and I was having all kinds of things like I was processing everything because everything was happening during season, so it was like I didn't have time to really like catch a beat and be like, okay, Sean, this is how you feel about this, and it was a lot of this stuff. I'm not really like trying to say it, but it was the first time I had lost people that were so near and dear to my heart. So, it was a new experience. Like, I'm trying to learn how to deal with it. But I made the decision to, instead of sitting at my 2 hour practices, 2.5 hour practices, I took the time to do a little bit of self care and kind of process things for myself. It kind of created a little wedge with some things, but I'm glad I did it because I've grown a lot in these past couple months. I, we all talk about a positive mindset. Anything happens, it's your look on it. That's your perception. That's what makes the situation. And I always said that, but it took everything happening last year and then my injury for me to really practice it. So it was okay. I got sick when I was injured. Okay, but it was my body telling me, it was Earth telling me, okay, Sean, you need to take a beat. You need to relax. Like, you're stressing yourself out. And a lot of the stuff that happens with our mental affects our physical. So it's like, I'm glad, and like you guys said, it took me, okay, I'm gonna go to these school events because sometimes we don't have time to. We're at practice. Like, I I like going grocery shopping. I like going around. I cook, so I like going grocery shopping to kind of ease my mind. I run errands to ease my mind. Instead of sitting somewhere for 2 hours to where I know I'm going to be miserable, I went and did those things. I chose to do those things just because, like, or shoot, go to the library for a little bit. Go sit on the bluff. Like, our school is right on the back of our school is the Mississippi River. And so we have the thing, well, Southern's called the bluff. So you sit on these little benches and you can see the river and the bridge and everything. And it's a real peaceful thing. But it kind of took me, like, sitting there and really, okay, Sean, you need to get involved more on campus. Because like you guys said, it's student athlete, but it's really athlete student with a lot of our schedules. So it was just important for me to take that time out to really, like, enjoy my campus how I was supposed to.
Ashante, sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I just want to ask a question really quick. How did you like navigate that with your coaches? Because I know, like, it can be really hard to get coaches to understand that, and a lot of times it's like, oh, you're just being sensitive. You only need the day. You only need 2 days. Like, how did you navigate that? Because I know a lot of coaches, like, every coach I've had has preferred me to come to practice, whether I'm sick or whatever, even if I'm just coming to sit. Like, so how did you navigate that?
So, my thing was, so I was still coming to, like, lift, and then I had, like, physical therapy. So we had 6:30 practices, even though it's opposite. We had 6:30 practices and everything, but, like, my physical therapy would be at, like, 7 or, like, 8. So I would do my treatment, and then go to my physical therapy. So that was, like, for the morning practices. I did make it wasn't like I just disappeared for a semester, but
Okay.
like, I would go to, like, lift, or I would do, like, upper body once I got clear to. But a lot of the things, that was a little bit of a downfall on, like, communication on my part, or, like, on both parts, whatever, just because I do tend to get distant, but I was also involved with, say, like, I started interning with AFH, so with Athletes for Hope, and I think you guys know Miss Kenya Warren. Maybe. Well, it's Athletes for Hope. We basically help, like, coordinate community service, like, using the student athletes and everything. So I was also into that. So sometimes when I was gone, I would relay the message, like, okay, I'm gonna go do this for my internship, or I'm gonna, like, do certain things. But I just made sure I didn't really explain it as, like, okay, I'm taking time out to take care of myself. But it was just like I had to communicate that I was doing some things. So it was important that I did those things without just going MIA, because I feel like I have done that in the past, and it wasn't the best way to go about some stuff. So it was just some things I did tell them, or some days I did tell them, like, okay, I need a mental day. Like, when I did get cleared and I was lifting heavy, my body was so tired. Like, I got hurt in November. I was in a boot and crutches for 4 weeks, and then in a boot for 2 more. But you guys know, like, with physical therapy and, like, rehab and stuff, the progression doesn't always go in a straight line. So it was like me having to communicate that. And it was a lot of communication with more of my trainers than my coaches, like my physical therapy people. So it was kind of like a relayed message in some points, but yeah.
I kind of have a question since you kind of dug into that. Kind of for everybody. I mean, I can start first, but how are you guys planning to focus on your self care this summer? So I know for me, I've really been listening to a lot of podcasts, journaling. There's this river that's like 3.40 miles near my house, so I walk the river and like listen to music. But I've really just like been in tuned and aligned with myself this summer, and honestly, it's the best. Like I'm even going to try like a solid core class for Pilates to try something new. Yeah, I'm so excited. But like
Bars,
I've
bars.
really been like in tuned with myself. Like this summer is all about me. So I just want to know like what for you guys, what are some self-care acts that you guys are doing this summer as we're not in season?
Um, I guess I can start off, or Kayla, do you want to go?
You can go
Even
ahead.
you go ahead. You go.
Okay. No, I was gonna say I love that question because I asked myself that question last night. Because I feel like post graduation, like when y'all graduate, y'all probably might party crazy. And I'm not the party type either, like Jayla said. But it's like I feel like this was such a milestone for me that I went out and partied a lot. And then I kind of sat back and I'm just like, I'm tired, I'm burnt out. I don't care about a party. I don't care about anything. I don't even care about working right now. I just need a break. And I asked myself last night, like, how are you showing up for yourself right now? Because I have a small business. I do tarot readings and I talk a lot about wellness. And it's like, how can you tell people what to do and you're not doing it yourself? And I was talking to myself last night, writing in my journal. And so, similar to what Kimora said, I like to spend time in nature. There's like a lake up the street from my house. I walk there with my dog. I meditate. I journal. I'm trying to build a routine, almost like, you know how y'all see on TikTok the soft girl era, not even trying to be a soft girl, but I want that structure in my life because I'm really good on routine and regimen. And so I'm trying to build that for myself and be disciplined in myself. Because just how we talked about, there were so many times that we didn't feel like going to practice, but we did. And I felt like if I could show up for a team or a coach, I could do that same thing for myself. So I'm trying to teach myself how to show up even when I don't feel like it. Because ideally, the person I want to become, she shows up for herself in any condition. So I feel like just trying to unlearn a lot of habits that I did out of like survival mode, so to speak. And now that I have this free time, this space, I just want to be present with myself. And like we talked about earlier, sit in this stillness, take time to kind of go with the flow and not always just worry about what we need to do, what we need to get done, but like listening to our own needs. So that's definitely what I'm trying to implement in myself so I can better show up for others in my community. Okay. Thank you.
Personally, I think I'm taking like a dual approach. So half of my summer it's like recovery, and the other half is growth. And so the recovery portion is kind of what Kimora was saying with like different exercise options. I personally find that my mental health was so bad during lacrosse because everything just hurt, and it was like it's those small injuries that you can't really sit out for, but they still like mess with your play, and it messes with your head because every time I'm throwing this ball, my wrist is killing me, my shoulder's killing me, my hips are killing me, my knees, my ankles. My hand was busted for one of the seasons that we had, and it was just every time you do something with that small tiny like sprain or whatever it is, it ruins how you're feeling. And so I realized that I haven't gotten the opportunity to actually recover because you're going to practices, is 2-3 hour practices, and then you have your season. So you don't get a recovery period there. And so I'm taking the summer to do a lot of just rehab and make sure that my joints are stronger and that my core is stable so that when I do go back to practice, I don't need to worry about these small injuries because I've already prevented them by doing that extra work, which I think that's like, we all think, duh, okay, you should be doing that anyways. But I think we kind of neglect those small movements that can help your ankles or help your knees, or wearing the right shoes to help prevent those injuries. And so that's like the first part. And like doing bar and doing Pilates is really, really great for like injury prevention. I know they kind of seem like sissy workouts, but they're really, really good for that. And so that's one thing with Kiki. I absolutely love Pilates. I love bar.
Nice.
And I'm starting water aerobics too.
Oh, that's cute. That's different.
That's interesting. I know it kind of seems like an old people kind of exercise, but I'm going to try it out. And then also the growth aspect, I realized I was getting a lot of anxiety because I felt like I couldn't protect myself. Like, I'm out in DC by myself. My whole family's in Arizona. I have literally nobody out there to help take care of me. Like, I don't know if you guys have partners that are like a boyfriend or, anybody who you're dating and you kind of feel safe when you're around them, or when you're around your dad maybe, or like an older brother, or like a guy friend. And it just feels safe because they can keep you protected. And when you're living in an apartment alone or a dorm alone and it's only you and like another girl, you kind of get in that space where it's like, I don't feel like I can protect myself. And I had a really scary interaction when I was playing with my dog at a dog park, and I was held at knife point by a man, and he was threatening to kill me and threatening to kill my dog. And it was really, really gruesome and horrible. And I literally had to go to practice the next day and practice like nothing was wrong. But after that happened, it was really like a wake up call for me. Like, you couldn't protect yourself. You didn't know what to do. You froze. You were shocked. Your dog didn't know what to do. And so he's getting like bite work training and protection training so that he can protect me. And then I'm taking MMA classes this summer, and also hoping to get my concealed carry license so that I think that will be a huge stress relief for my mental health during the school year when I'm in an apartment and everything. I think that will help so much more when I feel like I can take care of myself and I can protect myself, and I don't have to rely on anybody else for that protection or feel like almost helpless when it's just me,
And I would definitely agree with that. Like, just the whole, because it happens everywhere, right? Like, and then it's the whole thing of we're females, we're by ourselves. But that's not to say we're helpless as females, but realistically speaking, they are stronger than us. So it's like me, I'm moving into a 1-bedroom apartment. And so I'm gonna be by myself, but I'm in Baton Rouge, and I'm in the middle of kind of like, things happen here. There's things that have happened in the area, so it is something that, like, I have my Ring cameras and everything, but if somebody were to really knock down my door, how prepared am I? So, like, that's one of the things that I've spoken to and say, like, I just want to say, like, say social media influence. I have like a large following on like social media and everything. So it's been times that, like, I've gone out and people have recognized me in the store, or like, and somebody's gotten like really close to me and asked me for my number. And it's like, okay, well, it's like it's one of those things where, we're scared to say no out of fear of like what would happen. And it's been things where like people have came in my space, or people have recognized me when I'm out, and it's like one of those things where you don't want to feel, once you feel it once, you don't want to feel it again. And it's like, you don't like, it's always okay. Cause my little sister is out here with me. She plays soccer here as well. But there was a situation that happened when we were out where somebody didn't respect the boundary, and it was kind of like I had to go to my male friends, like, and I don't want to go out by myself anymore, because it's like one of those things where we're in college, you want to have fun, we don't go out all the time, but it's like those few times that you do, is just there might be that one person that ruins it, and then it's like, okay, I don't feel safe going out by myself anymore. And me as a female, even though, as an older sister, it hurt my heart because I felt like I wasn't able to protect my sister. And, like, that just, ugh. But that's like one of those things too. Like, I have done like, I used to kind of say like self-defense training and things like that. But I am also like looking into the whole like conceal and carry thing out here, because my 21st birthday is coming up and everything. But I also agreed with you, Jaala, with the whole rehab thing. Kind of just strengthening my body, because like I said, like, your mental affects your physical and vice versa. So I'm doing a lot of work, like looking for a trainer for the summer, just to strengthen my body in like those smaller muscle groups, because even though, like, yeah, we are supposed to do that, we kind of do neglect it just because we're focused on so much other stuff. So it's kind of like not something that we mean to kind of just, like, forget, or it's just something that we forget to do sometimes. So that is like something that I'm focusing on to kind of like do as like self-care so that I don't have to worry about certain things in the future. Um, Also, me and my sister have started like a series of adventures, like trying different like new places in Baton Rouge. Just because, so I'm from San Diego, like I said, so it's like everywhere you go, there's something that you've never done before, and like coming out here is a little different. So, and I do have my car out here, so sometimes we'll go to New Orleans, find a restaurant place, like we're food people, so we find like different things to do. And I think that's just like the bonding aspect of it, and just to kind of like give yourself a break was just really important for like self-care. Yeah.
Yeah, this summer has just been forget the hot girl part. It's healing girl this summer.
Yeah.
In those 2 weeks that I had mentioned earlier, I had found a therapist, and she was just like, "You, like, I'm proud of you," because she was like, "You've come a ways from, crying every session to, now we're finally talking about things." But she was like, "You still gotta heal," and she was like, "Have you done any of the hobbies that you told me about?" She was like, "You're always talking about plants. Are you planting or anything?" And I'm like, I've been home for a month and I do not have one plant. How odd. And I've started to, and there's a lot of things at Howard that I just can't do because I don't have the income, but also like Howard is in the city, so there's not a lot of things I can do. Like I love
You
building.
could fit a garden in Towers.
Yeah. Yeah. But like here, like my parents are building a patio, and I'm like, I do a whole vegetable garden. I love plants. Like my coworkers make fun of me because I will ramble about plants, and it's just like finding those things about myself that I not only like those hobbies that I love, but also just reaffirming those positive values. Like for me, one of the big things like I hold on my chest and will like tattoo across my forehead is like I'm not a terrible person, and I have never wanted to or want to be malicious. And I'm really proud of myself for trying to be that lighthearted, kind person that like I want to be a shelter for people, and that's a value that I value for myself, and that's something I want to invest in. And instead of being like, "Oh, I'm not a bad person," or "Oh, I'm not a boring person," I want to start instead of saying I'm not is I'm a great person. I might be corny and I love a good dad joke, but I'm funny. However, I'm funny. Like starting to start those affirmations and those positive thinking is like my biggest thing. And like falling back in love with my hobbies. Like my family does call me a grandma a little bit, but like I want to get into knitting. Like I want to make a knitted weighted blanket and stuff like that. And and on the student athlete part, I'm very much like it's out of sight, out of mind for right now because last year was so much, but like also trying to fall back in love with just like running and going to the gym was a lot. Like I love going to the gym. I like when COVID shut down, I was like, dang, I can't go nowhere. And it was really frustrating. So now as somebody who goes to the gym, I think I go about like 3 to 4 times a week. Like I'm starting to fall back in love with just going to the gym just to be like my funny thing is I'll go in. I'm the only girl in there and I don't have nails on now, but like I'll go in there with nails and a whole outfit and a whole bag on. And I'm like, and I'm the only and I'm pushing weight in here with all these big dudes. Like, look at me go type of situation. And then also just falling in love with running. Like me and running are on a love-hate relationship. So like trying to make running a positive experience for me is something I've been trying to do, and I'm wanting to go out because there's a trail in my county, so I can go run that. I run with
New Broome. I can
Hmm?
attest. I've been trying to run a lot too and like enjoy it. I got like a little vest and things just to make it fun.
Trust me, I play soccer, and
Yeah.
I'm working on running for the enjoyment part of it.
You have to almost
I'm
like gas
working on it.
for liking it.
Yeah, and I volunteer coach, which Jaala, you haven't texted Greer about, but anyways, um, like I'll go run with the kids. Like I'll be like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna bring my cleats on today, and I'm gonna hop in drills and like play with them and do that just to like just fall back in love with things. Because when we're athletes, I feel like it's work, 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 and we didn't fall in love with our sports like that. Like I fell in love with lacrosse because my dad played it, and I like the running joke is like I came out of the womb with a lacrosse stick, like that type of situation. And I feel like when we're in season or when we're going through what we call our rough week of the fall and like preseason, I'm not doing like that little girl who fell in love with lacrosse is like nowhere to be found. So this summer is like again just finding her, but also like making sure that she's a staple in my mind. So that way when I'm going through those tough things and we're running, sorry, the Man U, but I think we can now call it the Bison, like it doesn't feel like a drag and I'm not getting that performance anxiety to be like, I gotta hit this number and stuff like that. So like for me, it's just been finding me really. Like at the end of the day, it's just finding me and making sure that all the facets of myself are being thoroughly explored.
Y'all ready to move on to the next one?
Yeah.
I'm also not sure how long we're supposed to go with this because it's already been an hour. So
I don't know either, but I know they're gonna edit it. So if anything, they can cut some parts out. So
Okay.
I think we can probably like get to like the last few questions, and then if they can cut some stuff out, because I know like we were talking for a minute on a couple of them.
yeah,
How many
But
questions do
Great.
we have left? Do you guys know?
she said keep going if you want to.
I'm gonna
Okay.
stay another 10, 15 minutes and then we can wrap it up.
All right.
Yeah, like
Um,
10, because I know I have work soon. But
Okay.
Let's do 10 minutes. Let's wrap it up at like 11:35. Does that or 11:40?
Yeah, we have like 4 questions. What are some of the ways you are involved in mental health awareness on campus?
Morgan's message. And I highly suggest that for everybody. I know Jayla's in it.
Can
And
you
that's
explain
really-
that? I've never heard of it.
So Morgan's message was founded, I forget Morgan's last name, which shame on me. Morgan played women's lacrosse at Duke and actually was teammates with our assistant coach. And after a few life events, she unfortunately took her own life. So her parents started Morgan's message in her memoriam as a way to start a conversation about mental health within student athletes. You've probably seen it. It's a butterfly with a semicolon in the middle, and it's normally blue. And it's now expanded to not only collegiate campuses, but also high schools. They also have their own chapters. Howard has our own chapter, and there's a whole bunch of kids who are in it and that aren't even athletes either. But we talk about like how to get through freshman year. Like we had a panel about that, or one of the things I like that we did was we wrote cards to the kids across, like there's a pond, it's the field at Howard, then it's a pond, then it's a hospital. So we wrote cards to the sick kids, and we've done so much other stuff that I'm so upset that it's passing my mind. But it's a really great organization for if you want to just like do something for the cause to do it. I love it. I do it as like this is a way for me to give back not only to the people around me, but to myself for when I'm in those moments of need, like during those 2 weeks. And during that, most of spring semester is like, at least I'm proud and a part of an organization that promotes that. For me, I also volunteer because I know like food security as somebody who's a first generation American on my mom's side, like I give back to volunteer because it just eases my mind because I know like some people like where they're gonna find their next meal does toll on them. So that's another thing. But I would say for anybody looking for it, just go through your student activities list. Like I know Howard has one list. And we also pay for it. So we have like a student activity. So very much get your money's worth. But I'm also a part of an organization called Pretty Period, which is a women's organization that discusses colorism, rape culture, being a woman in the workspace at Howard. And I feel like the ways you can get involved is just by asking. Like, I feel like a lot of orgs are very much like, yes, come join us. We want to talk about that. And the quickest way for student athletes is to join SAC. Like I know every NCAA college are to have a student advisory. And if you want to go join them, do that. Because I know for at least for Howard, we had a lot of mental health panels, and we did a lot of events so that people didn't feel like they were so sheltered into being an athlete and that they could enjoy themselves in a more positive light. Kiki was also on the committee as well on the e-board. So yeah, I feel like the ways to get involved is to ask questions and to find those pockets of yourself that you want to join into and try and find orgs that match that.
Yeah, I like what you said, Alex. Personally, for me, my volunteering doesn't necessarily have the title mental health, but it all correlates into mental health, if that makes sense. So I work with the Women's Sports Foundation, which is an organization that really focuses on women's sports and encouraging little girls to start at a young age and to continue into sports. Also, I work with this company called Evoller House, which is located in Philadelphia, which focuses on inner city girls, really getting them back into shape with their resources, connections, getting them prepared for college. The program has an 100% graduate rate. So like they all attend college after the program. So it's actually a really good program that I just got involved with. And we really just focus on these little girls' mental health. I personally don't live in the inner city, but girls struggle a lot in the inner city because programs are not there. They're not provided for those little girls. So sometimes it's hard for them to stay afloat onto these opportunities that we have because they're not given in Philadelphia or other cities of that nature. They don't care about those little girls. So I feel like just me working with them this summer is going to be a great opportunity to really just give back, show them like resources, how to get involved. They don't even know how to have an interview because that's not offered at their school. All these resources and programs, Girl Scouts, I was in Girl Scouts, that's not offered there. So to have this program and to really help them evolve without the system is really important to me.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So ways that I'm involved with mental health, mine kind of similar to Kimora. It's not directly related to mental health, but I use that as an avenue. I was a residence assistant in my building. So when I hosted events, most of my events were kind of centered around being in tune with yourself, meditation, yoga, things like that. I did community service with and without my team. So just getting involved in the community because Atlanta's homeless population is pretty high, just like other major cities. And then lastly, having a platform of my own, just advocating for better mental health practices within everyone, within their self. So those are just ways I showed up.
This semester I definitely stepped away from my kind of service. I had a really tough semester and I was really focusing on just honestly graduating and graduating those classes and getting through the season. But usually I'm involved with Grassroots Health and Morgan's Message. I'm the fundraising chair for Morgan's Message. And then this semester was heavy for Morgan's Message in the first place. So, but for Grassroots Health, they teach sexual, mental, and nutritional health education to middle schools throughout DC and now Philadelphia. And so I used to be their digital marketing fellow there. And then that was after doing volunteer work with them in the past. And so I had to step away from the fellowship role. I had to step away from volunteering. I needed the time to take care of myself, and it really sucked because I really enjoy that organization in particular. I really love helping kids and teaching kids. I love coaching kids and all those kind of things. And so that was really difficult to step away from, but I'm happy I did. And so next semester when I want to go back, it will be more intentional and meaningful, I think. So
that's good. I was part of SAC this semester more than last semester, and then being the intern for Athletes for Hope, it kind of helped me. It kind of gave me a lot of networking to advocate for a lot of mental health stuff that we needed to be doing on campus. I'm working on doing a couple of workshops and camps and stuff to kind of just include that into there because like we said, the more it's brought up, the more it's going to be a discussion, the more it's going to be focused on. Throughout the past for NIL partnerships, I've done a couple of kids camps and things at YMCA's, and I've kind of just talking to the kids whenever we have a community service or thing, I kind of just feed into them just to because even as kids we can't at that stage it's hard to really process things or you're in the transition to be able to process things that happen. A lot of people aren't as fortunate, or they are some family issues going on. So I always just tell them okay, if they need to reach out to somebody, they can always find somebody at Southern, or they have people, or just kind of feeding into them like you guys were saying earlier, affirmations and things like that. But yeah, I'm currently just trying to work on getting more getting more workshops, getting more resources known. Because sometimes we have resources on campus, but they're not really known. So kind of just bringing those up more and more to like people. But yeah, that's definitely like where I'm heading with that.
Awesome.
I was thinking maybe we could end with 7.
I was gonna say, yeah, you guys want to pick one to like end with?
Yeah, I was thinking that since people are short on time.
Which one was 7?
It says, what advice do you have for someone trying to take care of their mental health?
Oh yeah, that's good. Okay.
I personally think it's I prefer to prioritize learning about the different mental disorders and kind of seeing, like, not necessarily self-diagnosing, but kind of seeing what of those symptoms you feel and using those recommended treatment plans, I guess. And so if you're seeing these symptoms for seasonal depression, you feel like you align with a lot of those, maybe trying some of the treatments that are recommended. Like something as little as having a sunlight in your room can help so much in the middle of winter. Or if you're feeling anxious, something like having a weighted blanket or having music playing in your apartment during the day, stuff like that. Or maybe changing things in your diet. Some of those things can really help. So I think when you learn more about different mental disorders, mental illness issues, it helps you to be able to, especially if you can't necessarily afford a therapist or afford a doctor, those can be super helpful ways to kind of navigate it.
Just to add on to that, advice I'd have for somebody that's trying to take care of their mental health, focus on boundaries. That was something that I had to do myself, that I realized, like, okay, I have to have something that protects myself, that keeps myself not in a bubble, but kind of protects myself. Because if I have those things, then I'm aware of, if somebody crosses a boundary that's been established, that makes me aware of where they stand with me, how they respect me, where my place is in their life. It's kind of a reflection. So focusing on boundaries, like if you feel the need to speak to somebody, if you're afraid, just take that step. If you don't think it helps at first, try somebody else. A lot of times, like something that I had to realize was that when you go through therapy, you have to find like who fits you. So sometimes you'll find somebody that's helping you, and it helps you with one thing, but you need somebody else to help you with another. You don't have to look at it as, okay, I'm living through this time and time again. You kind of have to look at it, and you have to change your perspective to think of it as, okay, even though I'm repeating it, it doesn't mean I have to live through the trauma over and over again, or whatever issues you may have. And like Jaala said, like identifying those triggers, identifying what helps you out is really, really important.
Yeah, for me, I'm big on full send, like, and don't feel bad about it either. Like that's my biggest thing is when I was going through it, I felt awful. I was like, my life is so perfect. Like I have 3 parents because my parents are divorced. So and I'm like, I have a beautiful family. I have a job and I'm so grateful for things like that. But I'm like, but mental health, it wears on you and your life could on the outside seem perfect. But at the end of the day, like it's okay to feel bad. Like first and foremost, it's okay to feel bad. Secondly, find a therapist. And if you can't, I think the biggest thing, if it weren't like a supplement to what my therapist is the community that I've built around me, and having those honest and open conversations and understanding what boundaries I have with certain people. Like I couldn't talk to my coach about everything that I had going on because I was like, that's not our relationship. Like I just don't have that with her. But I could go to my professors and cry in their office for like hours and be like, I'm gonna fail this test and life is so terrible. And I'm super blessed for one of my professors because I had a midterm that same day as when I found out my friend had passed. And I was just like, I'm sorry, but like, can I take the midterm at a certain different time, or can I take it in a different classroom? Because I don't want to be a distraction to everybody. And he was like, it is up to you. I will have tissues prepared and all of that. And I could go to him and like be like, hey, this is how I'm feeling as my semester got worse. And I was so grateful for that. And I was so grateful for my friends. I know like Jaala pulled me aside and been like, what's going on with you? And like having that community And having people around you to check up on you when you're not going to do it yourself is so amazing. And also be honest with people. Like if you're going through it, go through it. Like tell them up front instead of like, snapping at people. Like I hate when I'm like in a mood and I'm very much, I'll get agitated really quickly. And like if you come at me crazy, I'm gonna be like, what? Like like I'm just like a big bomb that goes off. And I get upset when I do that because I'm like, they didn't deserve that. So if you're honest with people up front, tell them what's going on. Like, cause you never know who you'll talk to. Like that's the biggest thing is building that community. You'll never find out people's experiences, and they have some really good advice for that. Like it like just having people who care about you is so amazing, and also to know that you have people to care about you. It's a warmth that you should feel as a daily basis, and especially when you're not feeling great, it's so much better when you know you got people. Hmm. It feels so much better when you know when you have people who care about you deeply and seriously when you can't do that for yourself.
I'm not gonna lie. I would like to add something like that she said about the people, like her community that she built around herself. Because when I first started like going to therapy, one of my things was like making more friends, being more like outreach. And something that she told me that really hit me was I'm focusing, it was something along the lines of focusing on expanding my circle when I should be focusing on the worth of those people that were inside my small one. Because even though like it was like, Ashante, why are you worried about making new friends that you can talk to if you have these people here and you're not using them? So it's like if you have, and I was like, oh, like okay, because it was just like okay, like, and we worry about. My thing was worrying about. Okay, I feel like if I go to my mom, because my mom's a single mother, like whatever. And so, not whatever, but so it was like, I don't want to worry her some more. I don't want to burden her with, okay, I'm going through this and I'm far away and she can't do anything about it. So it's like, but she could give me advice. Like some of the things that I felt like nobody could relate to or that I was scared to talk to my mom about, she's been through before. My trainer's been through before. So it was like, Sean, like you have to talk about these things because like Alex said, you never know what somebody else has been through. You don't know what advice they're going to give you. And that could be like a clarifying thing. And and to be honest with you, like you being like you taking care of your mental health is important for you to be able to help others. That's also something that I had to realize because if if you're worried about, okay, I have to help this person, I have to help this person, but you yourself aren't grounded, you don't have those tools of meditation to kind of keep those lines of, okay, I can I can help them without taking it on myself and then creating an issue for myself. It was like, okay, this is what you have to do. This is how I can help somebody else without it completely throwing my symmetry off. But
Yeah,
yeah.
my dad calls it put your face mask on because when you're in an airplane and
Hmm.
they tell you put your face mask on first before you
Right.
take care of anybody else.
Right.
And I guess I would just say some advice for someone taking care of their mental health is just like everyone else said, but more importantly, being honest with yourself about where you are and just being transparent about what you need. And most of the time, I feel like we all know what we need, just about whether or not we're gonna like listen to our intuition about it and not overthink or fight it. Like when we said we needed a break, we wanted to like push ourselves till we couldn't. So I feel like just listening to that first mind the first time and just allowing yourself that space to give whatever you need. That would just be my advice for yourself because you know how to heal yourself.
Yeah, and my advice would just be aligned with yourself when you know you're about to struggle or go through an episode. Just take precautions of to do things that you like to do. For example, when I was getting stressed out by my professor, I had to take a moment, talk to my mom, really chill out for a second. Like, honestly, that's another one. Just calm down. Like, sometimes we really just need to sit in our room and take a breath and calm down, and I feel like that's really helped me when I go through certain things, as well as just finding little things that I like to do. So, for example, I don't eat dairy, but like sweet tooth, if I'll have one and I'm really going through something, I'll get like vegan ice cream. And sometimes that makes you feel better. So just finding little things that you like to do in a storm really helps.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We really hope that this was helpful or impactful for at least one person watching today. So go ahead and fight on for the next year and make sure you prioritize your mental health the same way we are going to prioritize our mental health.
This was fun.